Why doesn't your roast chicken taste like Gran's? 12 secrets she never would have shared. Everyone knows how to roast a chicken, or at least everyone thinks they do. It's a chicken, it's an oven, it's some salt. What can possibly go wrong? I thought the same thing for years, until I ate Gran's roast chicken and understood that mine wasn't roast chicken. Mine was cooked chicken. Hers was something else entirely. The skin that shattered when you bit into it. The breast meat that stayed juicy all the way through when breast meat never stays juicy. The legs so tender the meat fell away from the bone before you even touched it with a knife. And that smell, the one that hit you in the hallway before you'd even taken your coat off. That smell that said Sunday, that said family, that said something worth coming home for. "How do you do it?" I asked her once. She looked at me. She smiled and she said, "A chicken needs time to be a chicken. I didn't understand then. I do now. 12 mistakes. 12 things almost everyone does wrong. That Gran never would have done. That seem like details and turn out to be everything. Stay until the end. Because the last one happens after the chicken comes out of the oven, when you think the hard part is over, when you pick up the carving knife. The first mistake was taking the chicken straight from the fridge. Gran took her chicken out at least an hour before it went in the oven, sometimes 2. She left it on the kitchen counter covered with a clean tea towel. That chicken coming to room temperature cooked evenly, all the way through, from the skin to the bone. The cold chicken from the fridge has a cold, dense core that takes so long to heat through that by the time the center is cooked, the breast meat is already overdone. Already dry, already the thing everyone is apologizing for when they carve. 1 hour on the counter. That was all it took. That was the first thing. The second mistake was not drying the skin properly. Gran dried her chicken, thoroughly, with a clean cloth, every surface, under the wings, inside the cavity. That completely dry skin hit the hot oven and immediately began to crisp. Wet skin steams instead of roasting. It goes pale and soft and slightly rubbery. The color never comes. The crunch never comes. The thing everyone wants from a roast chicken, that sound when you bite through the skin, never comes. Gran dried her chicken because she knew that moisture was the enemy of crispness. And crispness was the point, always the point. The third mistake was seasoning only the outside. Gran seasoned inside and out, salt and pepper under the skin, her fingers working carefully between the skin and the breast meat without tearing it, so that the seasoning sat directly on the meat where it mattered. Salt only on the skin sits on the skin. It seasons the skin. The meat underneath is still unseasoned, still bland, still the part that disappoints. Gran's chicken was seasoned all the way through because she put the seasoning where the meat was, not where it was easy to reach. The fourth mistake was not putting anything inside the cavity. Gran filled the cavity. Always, half a lemon squeezed and left inside. A whole bulb of garlic cut in half. A bunch of fresh thyme, a sprig of rosemary. Those aromatics inside the cavity created their own internal environment during the cooking. The steam rising from the lemon juice inside the chicken as it heated perfumed the meat from the inside out, not from the outside in. Every bite of the breast tasted of lemon and thyme and garlic in a way that nothing rubbed on the outside can replicate. The cavity is the inside of the chicken, and the inside of the chicken is where the meat is. Gran knew this. She filled that cavity every single time. The fifth mistake was the wrong fat. Gran used butter. Real butter. She worked it under the skin the same way she worked the seasoning. Between the skin and the breast meat with her fingers. That butter melted during the cooking and basted the breast meat from inside the skin. Kept it moist when breast meat has no fat of its own to keep it moist. The outside of the chicken she rubbed with more butter and a little of the dripping from the tin if there was any left from the previous Sunday. That accumulated fat, that dripping from months of previous roasts, added a depth to the flavor that fresh butter alone couldn't match. Gran's dripping tin was the secret ingredient that no recipe ever mentions because no recipe can tell you to save fat from every roast you've ever done. The sixth mistake was the oven not being hot enough. Gran's oven went on at full heat at least 20 minutes before the chicken went in. The chicken went into a screaming hot oven, 220 degrees at minimum. That immediate blast of intense heat in the first 20 minutes set the skin, created the color, sealed the surface in a way that protected the moisture inside for the rest of the cooking. A chicken that goes into a moderate oven never develops that skin. It cooks, it doesn't roast. Gran knew the difference between cooking and roasting, and she knew that roasting required violence at the beginning, intensity, that first fierce heat that does in 20 minutes what the rest of the cooking can never undo. The seventh mistake was not basting. Gran opened the oven every 20 minutes. With a large spoon, she scooped the juices that had collected in the bottom of the tin and poured them over the chicken. Every surface. That basting kept the skin moist enough to stay pliable while it crisped, kept the color developing evenly, added the flavor of the roasting juices back onto the bird that had produced them. That basting every 20 minutes was a commitment. It meant staying in or near the kitchen. It meant not forgetting. Gran never forgot. Because Sunday lunch was not something to be managed from another room. It was something to be attended to, watched over, cared for in the way that anything important deserves to be cared for. Have you ever basted a chicken every 20 minutes for the entire cooking time? The difference in the skin color alone is remarkable. Try it, and then tell me in the comments whether you'll ever roast a chicken without basting again. The eighth mistake was the wrong size tin. The roasting tin matters. Too large and the juices spread across the whole surface and burn before they can be used for basting or gravy. Too small and the chicken has no room to roast properly. Air needs to circulate around the bird. The skin underneath needs access to the heat. Gran used the right tin, the one where the chicken sat comfortably with a couple of inches of space on each side. Not more, not less. That tin produced the right amount of juice in the right concentration for the best gravy she would make afterwards. The ninth mistake was not using vegetables underneath. Gran put vegetables under the chicken. Always. Onions halved, carrots, celery, a whole head of garlic. Those vegetables lifted the chicken off the base of the tin. Let the hot air circulate underneath, and they roasted in the chicken fat that dripped down onto them for an hour and a half. What came out of that tin when the chicken was rested and carved was not just roasted vegetables. It was the foundation of the best gravy I have ever tasted. Gran put the tin on the hob, added a splash of the wine from the table, scraped up all the dark sticky bits from the bottom, strained it, and poured it over the carved chicken. That gravy made from nothing, from vegetables and dripping and the dark bits from the bottom of a tin, was worth more than anything that comes in a jar or a packet. Always. The 10th mistake was opening the oven too often. Every time the oven door opens, the temperature drops 20 degrees, 30 degrees. That drop interrupts the cooking, compromises the skin. Gran opened the oven only for basting, not to check, not to look, not to see how it was going. She trusted the oven, she trusted the time, and every Sunday that trust was repaid with a chicken that looked exactly as it was supposed to look. The 11th mistake was not checking it was done properly. Gran tested the chicken with a skewer into the thickest part of the thigh. The juices that ran out had to be completely clear, not pink, not faintly rosy. Clear. That test, that skewer into the thigh, was her thermometer. Simple, free, infallible. She had done it so many times that she could read those juices at a glance. If they were clear, the chicken came out. If they were pink, it went back in for 10 more minutes. Then she tested again, until the juices were clear, until the chicken was ready. Not a moment before. And now the 12th mistake, the one that happens after the chicken comes out of the oven, when you think the hard part is over. Carving immediately. Picking up the carving knife before the chicken has rested. That knife goes in and the juices run out onto the board. The meat that was succulent 30 seconds ago is dry by the time it reaches the plate. Gran took the chicken out of the oven and covered it loosely with foil. And she left it. 10 minutes, sometimes 15. She used those minutes to make the gravy, to finish the vegetables, to call everyone to the table. By the time the chicken was carved, it had rested long enough for those juices to redistribute through every part of the meat. The breast was moist, the legs were tender. Every bite was what it was supposed to be. 10 minutes, that was all. Between the chicken she had worked on all morning and the chicken that everyone remembered. These were the 12 mistakes. Chicken straight from the fridge. Wet skin going into the oven, seasoning only the outside, nothing in the cavity. Wrong fat or not enough of it. Oven not hot enough. No busting, wrong size tin. No vegetables underneath. Opening the oven too often, not checking properly with a skewer, and carving without resting. 12 mistakes. One bird, that Sunday lunch that Gran produced every week without apparent effort, without recipes, without thinking about it. Because she had done it so many times that every one of these 12 things was simply how you roasted a chicken. The only way, the right way. The way that produced the thing everyone at that table was still trying to recreate, in their own kitchens, on their own Sundays, with their own families, never quite getting it right. Because Gran's roast chicken wasn't a recipe. It was 40 years of Sundays. It was the accumulated knowledge of every chicken she had ever roasted, every mistake she had ever made and corrected, every adjustment. Everything she had noticed and remembered and applied the following week. You cannot learn that from a recipe. You can only start and keep going. And one Sunday, one ordinary Sunday that doesn't feel different from any other, you will open the oven door and something will be right that wasn't right before, and you will understand what Gran understood, without being able to explain it, the same way she couldn't explain it, the same way no one ever can. Tell us in the comments. Do you still roast a chicken on Sundays? Did Gran have a secret I haven't mentioned? And have you ever managed to get that skin, the kind that makes a sound when you bite into it? Every memory shared keeps a Sunday alive. Leave a like. Share with someone who takes their roast chicken seriously. Subscribe for more of Gran's secrets, the ones that were never written down.